Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Culture. This episode is for Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013. I'm Monique Jones, owner of mljcollegeblog.net, a site that focuses on race and culture in entertainment. And we have Ashley and Jasmine, my two sisters and co-hosts, with me to talk about today's topic, which is the happy topic of slavery.
Woohoo!
Yeah, massa.
So, why are we talking about slavery? Well, first of all, and I guess all, is because Hollywood has gotten on the bandwagon that slavery sells, and so now every year really, there are slavery movies. Like, I think we started really getting involved with slavery or discrimination-based movies with the success of Django Unchained, and then after that,
And also The Help.
Oh yeah, The Help. Oh yeah, you're right. The Help. The Help
also,
really did.
Dude, the first I would think would be Roots, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, Roots started it, but I mean, like, recently there's been like a renaissance of black discrimination films for some reason, and The Help is probably was probably the one that really started this renaissance of looking at the history of black oppression, which is good and bad.
It's probably the one, because I've actually known people who are just like, "What's Roots?" It's just like, okay, you're not a person.
Did you say it's probably the most well known of them?
Yeah, well, in this current time period,
Right.
All the new youngins, this new generation.
Right.
They're like, I've actually referenced Roots, and there are people who do not know what it is.
Wow. Yeah, and we come from a lot of families that have parents that are the same ages as our parents. You would grow up watching Roots.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we all have watched Roots.
Most of the time, if you were black, you grew up watching Roots.
Yeah, like.
My good friend who's Native American grew up watching Roots.
Oh well, I
So,
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't have Native American friends, so I don't know.
No, I agree with you. If you're black, and you don't know what Roots is, then something must have happened.
Either you're too young to have watched it, or you're just oblivious.
Even though we watched it when we were like toddlers.
Yes. Which was horrifying.
Every year, it was a yearly thing.
Yeah.
Yes, and to read more about my experience with that, please check out the Harvard Journal of African American Public Policy, in which my poem, "The First Time I Heard About Slavery," is published.
The more you know.
So The Help is the most, well, I don't want to say most recent, but like one of the recent movies that have come out that are all about black oppression. And
The Butler.
Yeah, and we have The Butler, and like I said, Django Unchained, and now we have 12 Years a Slave.
And 42. 42 counts.
42! Oh my gosh.
But it's such a feel-good movie.
It is such a feel-good movie. And shout out to whatever that man's name is. What's his name?
Chadwick
Boseman. Boseman. Your name needs to be easier to remember. But
Wait, is that the guy who played 42?
Yes.
Jackie Robinson.
Right.
Yes, he's the guy who played 42. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. I love that guy. I wish to marry him, so I know I'm
too. At least I have a better chance than you, I guess.
Yeah, you have a better chance.
Because I'm open to dating older men. That's fine with me.
I don't think he's that old. I think he's like my age.
Hey, there it is. Chadwick, let's get it going here. You probably have a girlfriend, but who cares about her? Just saying.
Let's see, yeah, well, does 42 count?
Okay. It does, but it's not like it's not the stereotypical, this is the black struggle movie, because there's no beatings.
Yeah, we should have an episode about 42.
Well, and I guess people wouldn't. This is, a point to whatever you're about to say about how it's good and it's bad slavery movies. The fact that we have to debate if 42 is can be included in the black struggle film category, like the fact that we have to debate that says a lot. Just because that movie doesn't have somebody getting whipped and like beaten and all this other crazy stuff, and yeah, they use the N-word and all that, but it's still a feel-good movie because the black man comes out on top. Mm-hmm. The fact that we have to actually debate that is sad. Like, that's included just because Hollywood only shows the hard, rough, disgusting underbelly stories, which need to be told. They do need to be told. But there are a whole bunch of other stories that come out a lot better, and that aren't like The Help, unlike The Help, focus more on the merits of the actual black person and not on the white person's intervention.
Right.
Because that is a huge problem with that movie and that book. Right. I mean, I enjoy that movie a lot, but I recognize that it is doing a huge disservice to the efforts of black people in that same situation, because it's painting a picture that the only way they could succeed or get their story out is through a white girl.
Right. And if I may say something a little bit about that movie, because for about a couple of years now, I've been debating about doing a revisit review of that movie, because the original review was, I will say, is really glowing in the fact that I was glad that there was a movie that approached racism not from the Mississippi Burning version, which is true. I mean, I'm not downing Mississippi Burning. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I'm never gonna watch it.
Like, that's what actually happened. Like, I'm not downing it, but I was like, isn't there going to be a movie that covers racism that isn't, you know, all about the whipping and the beating and stuff, but like shows, I guess, more of a modern day version of racism, like what people do go through on a daily basis with snide comments and stuff. So I mean, of course, nobody gets told to use a different toilet nowadays, but you know, common quote unquote racism,
like under the table,
yeah,
stuff nobody really knows about. Which a movie has been made about that now.
Yes,
I'm about sick of y'all hipster racists and people who are doing all this crazy stuff underhandedly.
Hipster racists.
That's a real thing. Hipster racism.
That is. Like, that's why there's all this outrage about Native appropriation, because people are taking Native American stuff and then being like, oh, it's fashionable.
Yeah, like all these PSA to everybody who shops. If you shop there and you get something called like Aztec or tribal pattern, realize that those might be actual patterns of actual tribes who are not getting paid or recognized for the use of those patterns. People have been suing.
My favorite I guess hipster racist thing that I now know what the term is on Tumblr you have like the white or male in a Native American headdress looking off in the sunset or whatever.
What?
Yeah, they have white girls in like those same kind of, like, they're just wearing a headdress for no reason.
What?
Yeah, when the headdress is a it's a big deal. Like, you can't.
Yeah, it's extremely honorable.
Yeah, and I read you can't even wear it, even if you were given one, you can't even wear it without express permission.
Now, if I walked up in somewhere, let's say it's, I don't know, Heritage Day, or no, let's just say it's another Tuesday. I walk up into school wearing a kilt and a traditional, like, you know, the little crest they have. I walk up in school wearing that. You better believe everybody's going to be like, oh, I didn't know you were, what country is that? Scotland?
Yes, Scotland.
I didn't know you were Scottish. I didn't know you had blah, da, 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 da. Are you sure you can wear that? Did somebody let you wear that? Why are you wearing that? You can't be Scottish, but you're black, blah, blah, blah.
Because the kilts come from different...
That's the literal same thing. Literally, it is the same thing. But do you see them selling kilts and Scottish crests and stuff on t-shirts in Urban? No, you don't. Because those are valuable things. And I can't. Getting back to the actual topic, though, because I feel like we've gone very far off.
I was making a note about The Help. Like, I was saying that if you read my review, then it will read like Well, I did think at the time this is a great movie. Like, you know, I like the performances of the people in the movie. I thought they had nuanced performances. I mean, for the movie that it was, like, it's not an Oscar-winning movie. I'm not saying that. But,
Octavia Spencer did do an incredible job, though. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah.
And what's her face? Howard.
Viola Davis.
Well,
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, I mean, for the movies that they were in, the movie itself isn't Oscar-winning, but the performances were very good and Oscar-winning, as we saw Octavia Spencer got her Oscar. I thought Viola Davis should have gotten an Oscar too, but looking back on it...
And even Emma Stone. Good job for her.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's when people noticed that she was an actress. Yeah, I never heard of her until then. So
I think the performances elevated the movie to something that could be taken as less paltry than other performances might have made it. But with saying that, though, I do recognize that there are a lot of things that are wrong with the movie, particularly the fact that we do have to have a white girl giving voice to these black women. Like, a girl doing that, it shouldn't take a young girl to do that, you know, to help black women. But at the same time, it's also like, well, she's the one that would have the platform because she is white, and so, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm kind of in the middle with the movie. I mean, I do like the movie. Like, I have watched it many times, and I still like it. But I get the criticisms about the movie. And if they could have, like, done something different with the movie, like, have someone else who was probably spearheading the project too, like a black person or something, then maybe it would seem a little bit less, you know, white helperish, like it is.
You know what also counts as one of these movies? The Princess and the Frog.
Oh. What was the last thing you said? It was kind of cutting off.
And I know that tons of people out there just like, hey, princess. Oh. I was saying that it counts, and I know that, you know how a lot of people are just like, I don't know why black people are still complaining about Princess and the Frog. They finally got their black princess. It's like, it's just like, okay, first shut up, person. Yes, we finally got it, but also it took 1,000 years for that to happen. But then they made it terribly wrong.
Yes. At
the same time,
yes.
Like it's a good, like it's an okay movie, and I personally don't want to watch it because I've seen it too many times as in one like concentration of time. But there's just a lot of problems that I have with it. One being that I understand, like, it's great that they're saying, oh, Tiana's the hardworking princess. It's just like, why do we have to make the black girl the hardworking princess?
Thank you.
Why do we have to do that?
Thank you.
Like, why couldn't she be, like, as rich as the other ones? Or, you know, something like that.
And if she had to work hard, why couldn't she work hard as something other than cooking?
Yeah.
She could have been a singer.
Yeah,
she could have been an artist.
I'm good at cooking.
But this girl's back here in an apron. Like, what? What's it? And to top it all off, we couldn't even see her as black woman for the entire movie. What was she the whole movie?
She was a frog.
She was a frog. Okay? She only got to be Tiana, the black woman, for about 15 minutes of the movie. The rest of the movie, we're like, oh, what a cute frog. That's not right. It's cute, but when you take a look at all the other movies, everybody else gets to be a human the whole time. Why she gotta be a frog?
Even freaking Ariel, she's part fish.
Right.
Who can see your face?
Right.
Right. And I know people have talked about this a lot too, including myself. But I never really understood why Disney seemed like they had an aversion to making a black prince. Like, that always bothered me. And I know that the argument that a lot of people make, and it's a valid argument, is that Disney is showing an interracial marriage. But can we really call it that? Because he's not really a real race anyway.
He's from Maldonia.
Yeah, like he's like pseudo-Spanish.
AKA Disney Spain.
Right? He's like pseudo-Spanish, pseudo-Greek, pseudo-Indian, pseudo-Middle Eastern. And it's just
He's
like...
literally every race that's not white.
I know, and I'm just like... First of all, it would have been a great gesture to the African American community to have a black prince, because we don't have one from Disney. And just to show that they do exist, they do exist. Everyone go look up African culture. You can see they do exist. As do black princesses, they do exist. We could have that kind of, we could have that shown on the big screen. But even if they weren't gonna make a black prince, why make this weirdly non-racial but racial character? And I like Naveen as a character. I think he's a good character, as far as his personality and how he acts and reacts to stuff is. But if he's gonna be not white, let's make him something else. Don't make him Maldonian. Make him okay. The voice actor for Naveen, I forget what his name is. He said that he based the accent of Naveen from his grandfather, who is Spanish or Latino. And so I'm like, well, if we're doing that, why not just make Naveen Latino or Spanish? Do it like that so it makes some kind of sense. But
that's their Disney magic. What Disney, your magic is BS.
But yeah, I never understood that, and I think the movie had a lot of missteps, particularly with how they handled Naveen, because at first he was going to be a Clark Gable-ish white dude, and then there was this huge uproar from the black community, being like, how come he's got to be white? And so then I don't know why they decided, let's make him a weird race. I don't know why they just didn't do a black prince. It's like they just couldn't fathom the idea of it.
Also, can we talk about how I forgot. Got started. Never mind.
But there was an article that I wanted to talk about.
Oh wait, now I remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
And why did they change her name?
Oh, right, Maddie. Some people were saying
Maddie, and I like the name Maddie, and I like the name Tiana. But at the same time, when they changed it, it's just like, oh, her name's not gonna be Tiana, the hard-working princess.
Some people thought that Maddie sounded too slavish, and I thought it sounded just fine because we're in the 1920s. What kind of name do you want?
Yeah, Maddie is a 20s name, not Tiana.
Right. So anyway, but what spurred this topic on, why I wanted to talk about it, is because there's some new news in the world of oppressive black people film, or oppressed black people films. And Madame Noir has this article that's talking about the problem. It's called The Problem with Slavery Themed Films. And they're talking about kind of the stuff we're talking about, which is there an issue with making so many slavery-based, oppressed-based films? And so they talk about 12 Years a Slave, which I'm sure will win tons of Oscars. I want it to win tons of Oscars. And they also go on to say, and if you haven't quite had your fill of upcoming black oppression on the big screen, don't fret. Hollywood is also working on bringing the chattel to the small screen by way of two slavery-themed miniseries, including ABC's miniseries based off of Paul Jennings, a black man who was a slave for President James Madison. The other series, which is said to be still in talks, hopes to bring the unlikely duo of Martin Scorsese and Harry Belafonte together for the purpose of telling the notorious true story of Belgian King Leopold II. His deadly colonization over what is now known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo was responsible for the biggest genocide of people in world history. And so the author goes on to say...
That one actually sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, it does. So the author says, now I know folks might be wondering why we can't move past already, but I'm actually not all that bothered by slave narratives. And in actuality, some of the films listed I am actually looking forward to seeing, like 12 Years a Slave, Tula the Revolt sounds, this other movie, Tula the Revolt sounds promising. Did they say what that's about? Tula the Revolt stars Danny Glover and is based on the true story of a slave uprising on the island of Curacao. That does sound interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if it ever gets made, the King Leopold miniseries sounds like a good one. We shouldn't shy away from the slave narrative, after all. It is a part of our legacy, she goes on to say. Or she goes on to say.
Yeah, Madame Noir.
Right. Wait. Okay, and in some respects, a few of those stories might actually be beneficial, particularly in educating and reminding folks about what the legacy of slavery has meant for our community. That's all true. But I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that some of the slavery-themed content we have seen as of late has been problematic, including the ill-conceived Harriet Tubman sex tape skit. And let me interject and say what that is if you haven't heard about it. And it's on my website if you want to look it up. So, Russell Simmons, he has a YouTube account for his Def Jam label, and so they wanted to they have skits and stuff on there, and so one skit is Harriet Tubman basically buying the slave's freedom by sleeping with the master and blackmailing him about it. Now,
what?
That's exactly the reaction everybody else had.
Are we for real?
Unfortunately, we are.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that's a black man doing that.
Yes.
So just let that sink in. That's a black man who has benefited from Harriet Tubman's great sacrifice.
Yes.
He is trivializing her sacrifice.
Yes.
Man, no. No.
But I would argue that Russell Simmons has lost all touch with not only human community, but the black community. Because
who even cares about Russell Simmons? I mean, when you think of Russell Simmons, you think, oh, you mean his wife, Kimora?
Right.
Or ex-wife? Ex-wife?
Ex-wife.
Ex-wife.
But she kept the name, though.
Yeah.
No. But, Russell Simmons, you're old as dust. Get out of town.
So, anyway, she goes on to talk about the problems. Okay, so she says, not to mention the cliches. Who isn't sick of the white savior angle, dressed in a historical slavery depiction where all the white folks learn valuable lessons about themselves at the expense of black bodies, or the benevolent servant who gets tortured and sexually assaulted for 90 minutes, only to be rescued and freed with the help of the aforementioned individual. Quite frankly, I'm just not interested in watching that. Matter of fact, if I want to sit and watch black suffering brought on by the hands of institutionalized white supremacy, I'll just open my front door and take a walk around my neighborhood. And instead of just exploring instead of just exploring slavery stories that speak about plantation life, the sometimes congenial relationship between master and slave, and the general horrors of the peculiar institution, I want to see more about the stories of those who said forget this crap and took their freedom. I'm not just talking about those who ran from the plantation, but also the ones who burned, pillaged, and fought back against the institution itself. These folks are national heroes too. And it isn't as if it's not like there isn't enough source material, including these 3 examples. And she lists Nat Turner.
Nat, he destroyed some towns, man.
Nat Turner went ham on those people. He just killed up everybody on that plantation.
The Maroons of Jamaica, Suriname, and the Americas. She explains slaves ran away by the tens of thousands during the antebellum period, From North America to South America, and also through the Caribbean and through Central America, these runaways, called Maroons, took to the jungles, the mountains, and the marshy swamps in order to avoid being chattel. They started free black communities of their own, and in many instances created hybrid settlements and with other threatened indigenous people. To maintain their freedom, they took up arms and fought oftentimes triumphantly against colonizers. In fact, some of the Maroon tribes still exist and fight to maintain their autonomy. This is not to say that we should rewrite history to fashion a much more heroic past. However, in addition to learning about the ones who literally slaved in quiet dignity, we should also get to know more about the black Seminoles of Florida, Cimarrones of Panama, the Quilombos in Brazil, among many other Maroon settlements too. And she also talks about Harriet Tubman or Sojourner Truth. And so she goes on, this is a no-brainer. Tubman personally led more than 300 enslaved blacks to the promised land with a shotgun, and Truth was a fierce abolitionist and champion of women's rights, including authoring the ever-poignant speech, Ain't I a Woman? So why has Hollywood slept on any real attempt to breathe cinematic life into our most treasured icons outside being a tasteless joke or the sidekick to a vampire-hunting, slave-freeing president? That's true.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see two different things happen. It's these black oppression things.
Mm-hmm.
One, I would like to see a modern day black oppression. Literally go through the life of a black person.
Right.
You know, especially down here in the wonderful state of Alabama, you go outside and you're just faced with tons of new material to write about. And I'm sure everywhere in other I was about to say other racist states, but I guess it's like to keep that in other states like, I don't know, Arizona or
Virginia,
I guess,
West Virginia, Mississippi,
or basically any other state that has racists in it.
So the entire country.
the entire country. Hey, I think we should do something with that, especially because it's just still out there. All these people haven't died off yet, and it'll be like, I don't know, 10 years till they're officially gone. But anyway, the second thing would probably be, you guys remember Holes, right?
Yes.
You remember Sam?
Yes.
Oh, Sam!
Sam.
Dule. Oh, Dule.
I need a movie or a television series or even a short 30-minute clip of, that's not really a clip, it's 30 minutes, but somewhere where it's just like the white person was touched by the black person, you know, or like how the teacher in Holes, she became a robber and she killed people after they killed Sam.
Right.
Why can't we have that story? I want that story.
It's a great story.
That's a good story.
All Sam wanted was to fix it. That's all he wanted.
Like, fix it, Felix. But you know, one reason why I think these films keep getting made is because it's not just because there's a lot of white people in Hollywood that, you know, are you know, since they can make the movies, that they're just making these movies just to exploit black actors or anything. I think it's more dealing with white guilt.
Yes.
Personally.
White guilt plays into a lot of things that I didn't even know it played into.
Yeah. And that becomes evident when you're watching today's entertainment, especially these slavery-themed films, where, I mean, that's the only reason, I mean, aside from it being profitable, I think that's one reason, actually, that's probably the reason why it is profitable, because you not only have the producers and, you know, people who are like, this is a compelling story, but it also reminds me of what my people did to these other people. But you also have people who are in the audience who take their kids to these movies, being like, here's what you need to learn about American history, son or daughter. Like, you need to learn what not to do and how not to act. And also, black people take their kids to see these movies too, because they're like, you have to learn what the world is like. And, you know, saying it like that, it does make you realize that one group of people might be taking their kids to see so they can see how the world was like, whereas another group is taking their kids to show them what the world still is like. So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But I think that's why they're really popular, because of white guilt and because people want to educate themselves or their family members about history. So, I mean, I think the white guilt part, though, I think that part needs to die out a little bit, because I'm not saying we should forget the past. Like, that's definitely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in order for white guilt to be erased, then you have to, become a little bit more cultured about life, I think. If you get white guilt, you won't have it if you become cultured.
You can't stop at the guilt.
Yeah.
You gotta use that fuel that you get from the guilt to actually do something positive.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and if you feel offended, I'm not saying you're not cultured. I'm just saying that in order to not feel like you're surrounded by others that you have to, walk on eggshells with, just understand what culture we come from. Like, you don't even have to understand all of it. Just understand enough so that people are like, okay, I know that they know what they're talking about. Like, just be a person of the world. Be a member of the world society, and then you'll be fine.
Just like as black people, we can't stop at, white people trying to keep us down. That's not all that's going on anymore.
No.
Like, we've made enough strides now to where you can't just stop at that. You can't let that be your excuse for not doing stuff. You gotta be like, okay, I'm just gonna do all that I can because I can do all that I can.
And you can also do all you can to fix it for somebody else.
You can't just say, you can't stop at observing something. You have to do something.
Right. Because, like, feeling guilty is not gonna help anybody, especially yourself. So, there was a point I was gonna make. I forget what it is, but just realize that the world it's not that threatening that you have to feel guilty about something that you didn't even do, really. Like, just realize that you're not the slave owner you're seeing on television or in films, but also just realize that in order to not have white guilt, all you have to do is just understand other people. Like, okay, here's the point I was going to make. Like, most minorities in America have no choice but to understand the majority race, because that's what we have to see all the time on TV, in films, all that stuff. Like, and in our history books, we get taught everything dealing with the majority in America, which is quote unquote white people. And I say that because I know there's like Italians and other groups in there, but as an ethnic community, we have to grow up knowing everything about the other side, whereas the other side has the luxury not to know anything about us. But it shouldn't be that way, because the other side also kind of brought some of us over here. So they shouldn't. There is no luxury. It is your duty as a member of America and of the world to know about other people that live alongside you. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's my long-winded way of saying that white guilt needs to stop. So,
also, it's not your fault. People who have white guilt.
Right.
You didn't do it. Remember that. You weren't the one who did all the terrible things to your slaves. It was your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't say anything to them because they're already dead.
Yep.
So you just live on. You just learn from their mistakes, and just not enslave people.
And not treat people like they aren't.
And treat people with respect. You treat people like you want to be treated. You learn that every single day in every single school that you go to.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Another thing that would be interesting if there was a movie or television show about it is if the well, for one, I would just like to say that people that are lot of minorities. Or, I've actually had a conversation with some person who is just like, the only people that are racist are the white people. It's just like, actually, everyone is in this circle that you're putting around the white in. And it would be very interesting if we saw some, hey, on Tumblr I read there's this girl that was from China, and I'm not saying that to be racist. She was actually Chinese because she wrote that on her blog. That's what the whole blog was about, her being from China. She talks about how she didn't want any black people to comment on her page. And she didn't call us black people, she called us Kool-Aid drinking people. And I would just like to say, for one, that that's really a good racial slur, because Kool-Aid drinkers, that's a very general statement, because across all the board, everyone loves Kool-Aid. But anyway, I'd just like to, I think it'd be interesting if we saw a thing where either an Asian is taking some problems from a black person or some other race person, or, the black person's having a problem with, like, a Indian as an actually from India person. Or, and if you do have, like, a Native American story, maybe, because maybe, well, there actually is a fun fact. There is going to be it's like an independent film that is on Native Americans and how they live in their reservations and how it's actually kind of dangerous and all that stuff. And a black man is making it because his roommate was Native American, and he passed away from a gang attack that was after him. And so he's making this film. I forget what it's called though, but I know the whole to-do about it is on Tumblr, so you probably see it on your dashboard sooner or later. But I hate that I forget what it's called. But yeah, he's making this film in honor of his friend and roommate to show what truly happens on these reservations and how we should be more mindful and more helpful to the Native American community. But there should be more stuff like that. Why isn't there more stuff like that? That's what I crave as a...
True, that's true.
As a movie watcher, book reader.
Yep. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. I will have the links to this and some other stuff that kind of coincides with what we were talking about in the show notes. And you can find this show on my Spreaker homepage. You can also find it at mljcollegeblog.net, along with all my other writings and fan art and a lot of other stuff. Especially if you're a Sleepy Hollow fan, you need to go there. Toot sweet. You can find me on Facebook at mljcollegeblog. You can find me on Twitter at mljcollegeblog.net. I think that's about it. So we will talk to y'all later. Bye.